The Mauritius campaign. It's October 1809, and the British are trying to take control of this key linchpin of control of the Indian Ocean. If we zoom in on the center of our map here, you'll see a little rectangle. This is a table. We are 1 centimeter is 50 kilometers. We're about 150 kilometers to the northeast of the island of Mauritius, where the French ship Caroline has been escorting an Indiaman, a prize taken from the British way up in the Bay of Bengal, and now just 150 kilometers shy of Mahaborg, which is sometimes also called Grand Port, I believe. The British intercepted them, and so here we see the action a few days early. The Leopard is on a collision course with the prize and would likely have come into within, I think this is 100 yards firing distance at 11 a.m. on the 9th, except that the Caroline, kablow. So they're going to meet like this. The Caroline has successfully intercepted the Leopard. I should point out, this is a rather interesting scenario. I haven't seen a scenario like this in any of the miniature naval wargaming books. Usually, they take their cues from the land-based, and they say, hey, let's just line them up and throw a couple of ships at each other, and they'll fight. The Caroline is a much smaller vessel than the Leopard. Now, I'll warn you, we're going to get there. We're going to throw blood, bilge, and iron balls on the table, but I got to explain a couple of things to you guys and put it in the context of the campaign itself. This is a really interesting campaign because everything is scaled really appropriately. We know how many hours, we know how many minutes everything takes. Heart of Oak tells us that when we get down to the tabletop game, 1 millimeter is 1 meter on the table, and every turn is 1 minute. This is really good because it means you can translate from table to map really easily. Now, the Leopard didn't quite make it that closely, but we do know that Indiaman, given the scale that we're looking at here, is, so there's the edge of the table, and here's where the Indiaman is. Oh, this is at the time of the actual battle. At 9 a.m., the Indiaman is 1.5 centimeters. That is 3 kilometers off the table, basically 3 kilometers to the east of the table. The Caroline is just trying to delay the Leopard long enough for the Indiaman to get away. The Caroline does not want to get in a drop-down, drag-out fight. If they have an opportunity to take the Leopard, they're going to take it. However, it's worth noting that the Leopard is a 50-gun ship of the line. Like I said, I'm going to be using blood, bilge, and iron balls. We've seen that on the channel quite often. The Caroline is a 40-gun frigate. Oopsie. If you take a look at blood, bilge, and iron balls, we do have a little bit of a sticky wicket here in that the ships go from 38-gun frigate to 44. Well, maybe I should have used 38-gun, and it has to do with how you translate guns to these guys right here. I thought, well, I could probably go with 3 guns, and that would be, I'm going to give them a little bit of bump just because they've already got so many disadvantages. So that's what the scenario is going to look like. And I can even measure out here, oh, look, they're going to be separated by 0.5 centimeter. That means they're going to be separated by 1 kilometer. And, what does that mean on the table? Well, that's where things get a little complicated. If we're playing Heart of Oak, I know that they're going to be separated by 50 centimeters because every millimeter is 1 meter long, which is nice because it means take a look. If I put my guy down here, oh, the actual hull of this ship is is about 20 meters, about 60 feet. Okay. And then my bigger ship, the Leopard, is closer to 25 centimeters. So maybe, 75 feet. Oh, it's 1-to-1 scale. These are perfectly in scale with each other, which is great. Unfortunately, blood, bilge, and iron balls is more game than simulation. Now I'm going to do blood, bilge, and iron balls, the old triple B. Let's see. No, it's BB and IB. Whatever. I'm going to use old Alan Abbey's rules, and it's a little more vague. How much is each turn? And I spent a lot of time thinking about this. How am I going to translate what happens on the tabletop to what happens in the campaign? If every turn is 1 minute, that makes it really easy because I can figure out how fast the prize goes in 1 minute. And if this guy makes a turn and, things get a little wonky, it's very easy to translate back to here. But gosh, I really need to sit down and figure all this out and do all this. And then I thought, wait a minute, take a deep breath, man. Just sublimate. say a Hail Mary, maybe a decade. Just step back. You don't even know what's going to happen on the tabletop. Let's not worry about that just yet. Let's just put our figures on the table, a little something like this, and see what happens. And then we can try to put the results back onto the map that way, which means the tabletop is going to look a little something like this. I left the ruler up where you can see it, so you see I have gone with the standard ground scale, although it's the ocean scale, I guess you could say, separated by 50 millimeters or 50 meters? I don't think that's right. I think that's actually 500 meters. That's probably the better way to do that. So they're separated by a half a click. And these are the turn sequence. We're going to go left to right. But the thing I want to point out here is that the wind is out of the northeast, which means if the leopard over here in the black and red turns more than 45 degrees, actually they have, we got to think about this. And you have to think about it a lot at the start of the game and then a little bit less as you go along. This is what the wind gauge looks like. So I put it right down on the tabletop. If you are beyond that 45 degrees, how do I put this? At 45 degrees, that puts you right on the line between half and 2/3. If we want to stay at full speed, which we do because it's still a chase, we can't go full 45. So we need to keep ourselves something like that. And the distance between our two ships, of course, the Caroline over here has the ability, they're a little bit quicker. And the Caroline, I think what they want to do is just get around in front, get a nice solid raking shot, and then get the heck out of Dodge. Don't risk an open slug match because you're going to lose that 9 times out of 10. I know the French are brave. They are perfectly willing to use elan to overcome numbers, but in this case, it's just a delaying action. There's a whole rest of the campaign to fight here. So what that means is we're going to turn over each of these, and blue repairs. Of course, blue is going to be the French, and then the French get to sail. And in this first turn, all they're going to do, now they are at, bear in mind, 12 inches is when it comes to firing. You start firing at extreme range up to 24 inches. So I guess what has been happening here so far, let's take a look at this. I'm playing at half scale. That's right. I forgot about that. So until we get to within 12 inches of each other, we're just not going to have any ability to fire. And the speeds are going to be, we're still going to be at full sail is really what I'm looking at. So the Caroline at full sail, it takes a full turn to shift down. And I always declare, okay, this turn is their last turn at full sail. They're going to shift, and next turn they'll be at half sail. If you are at full sail, there's a modifier to the cannon fire. So like I said, we're just going to go full sail. And at a full sail, the Caroline is going to be able to move 5.5 inches. And so this is where the math gets kind of hairy. Because essentially every turn that goes on, the Caroline is going to creep ahead by 1/2 inch. And so there's 2 minutes, and there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So after 10 minutes, and that's just getting ahead of where the leopard is. So after 10 minutes of sailing, they've got this much ability. And again, the leopard, their hands are kind of tied. They can hope to sweep around behind, but we'll have to see what happens. I've essentially gone through all 10 turns. I know this is a little different from what you're used to when it comes to games of this nature. We're not really playing a game in the traditional sense. We're kind of working out what would happen in this scenario. And when we get to a situation where things get a little bit random, we'll slow down and look. But the thing is, you got to remember, the guys that are piloting these ships are not stupid. Essentially, they know how far away extreme range is. So the Caroline is going to be able to turn something like this with the wind coming right off her bow. She's going to be able to dictate the terms of the engagement. And at this point, this is what it means to have the weather gauge, right? So however many turns it takes, Maybe another half an hour or an hour has gone by. This is where the Caroline says, all right, guys, it's time. And now we have a situation where these two vessels are going to be locked into combat. We are at extreme range. And the Caroline could very easily set up just inside extreme range like this. And these two ships, of course, she would position herself in such a manner that the ships would be trading broadsides at extreme range. So she may just decide, well, I'm gonna park right here, and now we can begin the game like that. That's a perfectly legitimate position for her to be in. Trade broadsides, see who gets the better. I'm gonna move this over here, and we could just play this out to see who gets the better of this exchange. However, the Caroline knows that, you know, with an extra 10 cannons, or 5 cannons as it may be, right? Because it's 20 on each side and 25 on each side. So with 20 to 25, an extra 5 cannons, this is an extra 20% increase in the weight of shot that the Leopard is throwing. She doesn't want to play that game. Instead, what she's going to do is she is not going to risk getting captured. So instead, she'll pull up ahead, and maybe something like that. You know, and you may argue, well, hey, why are you pre-measuring? You're not supposed to pre-measure. Pre-measuring is not the way that, you know, it is actually. When you're in a game like this, these vessels are firing ranging shots. They know exactly how far away from each other they are. They're going to use their powder to get set up in a situation that looks exactly like this. And then the Caroline says, okay, now I'm prepared to cut across the Leopard's bow. We're going to try to see what happens. And maybe after that's done, they'll trade places and drift along with the Caroline, again, at long or extreme range, always ready to cut away. She's faster, so she can peel out. She can put distance and escape from this encounter whenever she wants to. But as I said, on this turn, this is where she says, I'm going to make my turn. And so the Leopard at full sail says, all right, this is my last turn at full sail. I'm going to move 5 inches like so. And then I'm done. And maybe he senses what's coming. And so he says, you know, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to turn like this, and that's going to slow me down to 2/3 movement. I'm comfortable with that. And then we have the sailing for the French vessel. And the French vessel says, okay, well, in this particular rule set, I can move. I have to move. I feel like I need a 6-inch ruler to make this work. You always have to use the right tool for the job. So the Caroline can move a grand total of, at half sail, 7. Normally it's 7, so 3.5 inches. So she's going to turn here, and she's going to turn 1 point. It's basically 1 clock face. Now, she is a smaller vessel. She can actually turn 2, and then she can move 2.5 inches. And that puts her right about there. Okay, and then we turn over, and now the French get to fire, and she is going to be firing at a total of, this is just inside 9 inches, which translates to 18 inches. At long range, she needs to roll a 5 or a 6 to hit. And because she has 4 cannons, she is going to roll 4 dice, looking for 5s or 6s. She hasn't taken any damage. She can target the sails only, which will... Ooh, that's not a bad idea. The French did that a lot. Remember, she's just trying to slow down the British vessel. That's going to be rough, though. She's going to have to hit on 6s. And then the British vessel, she's going to have to do a grand total of 5 hits to knock down a mast. So let's just go ahead and fire. See how many 5s and 6s we get. She gets a pair of 6s. That means we get to draw our damage cards. Some of you may be wondering why this doesn't count as a raking shot. And the answer is, in Blood Bilge and Iron Balls, you only do raking shots if you are within short range. We're just too far away for this to count as a full broadside. I have a deck of cards here, and with 2 hits, we're going to draw 2 cards to find out what the damage is. The first damage is a King of Diamonds, and then a Jack of Hearts. The King of Diamonds is going to do the Chain of Command and 3 crew members. So this game is a lot like Car Wars. See, here's the leopard, and so we're going to cross off one of these pips. If all the points are out, so we just knocked out one of those, and then we knocked out, see these little stars down here? 3 crew members. 1, 2, and a 3. Okay, so some casualties and some casualties among the officers, but if it only change speed or direction on a 5 or a 6, and that's not the case if you have 1 damage or not. Because the leopard has suffered a loss of command, they can only change direction or speed on a 5 or 6 on the next sailing phase. That's not the case just yet. That can be repaired, which we'll get to in the repair phase. In the meantime, we also have to figure out what that Jack of Hearts does. The Jack of Hearts means 3 hull boxes are hit. Ooh, that's a pretty good shot. Right down the line, these 3 shots to the hull can also be repaired. It's when you hit this gray box that you can no longer fix it. The leopard is going to have to put in for some repairs here before too much longer. So we put these aside, and I don't think we need the damage deck anymore. We turn over. The next card is the repairs. So the blue, the blue is for the French vessel, which doesn't have any repairs, and then the British get to fire, but they don't. They are outside of the firing arc. I have a little tool here that will help us understand what the firing arc looks like. See, here's the firing arc for the French. If we drop our ruler down, so there's the French vessel, that firing arc looks a little something like this. Obviously, if we put it down here, the French vessel is outside of that firing arc. Speed and maneuverability really pay off in these situations. Of course, the last thing we have is the British get a chance to repair. Now, what that means is because they have 5 crew stars here, you can see them right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have 5 chances to make repairs. And the repairs happen, you roll a d6, and on a 5 or a 6, the repair is successful. We want to get our chain of command back in order. We got to find the guys who are responsible. I'm going to roll 3 dice to try and repair that guy. I got a 5, so that goes off. Then I'm going to roll 2 dice, looking for 5 or 6 to try and repair the hull. And with a single 6, we're going to repair one of those. So they managed to jam the caulk and oakum in place, and we erase 1 hull damage, and we erase the chain of command. So our chain of command is back in action. If you lose all 6 of these, by the way, the ship will strike its colors. Then we need to scramble these and lay them back out. To give myself a little more space to maneuver, I've shoved the boats back 4 inches away from the camera. First, the French get to fire again. The positions are all the same. We're going to roll 4 dice, once for each of the cannons, hitting on 5s and 6s. We're going to get to draw 3 cards this time, and I haven't put the king and the jack back in the deck. I haven't touched it at all. So we draw 3 cards, and it's going to be the 10 of spades, the 8 of diamonds, and the jack of spades. The 10 of spades is going to be 1 gun and 1 crew hit. I'll have to roll. It's going to be random which side gets hit. The jack will be 1 gun and 2 crew hit. And then the 8 of diamonds means command damage, so that's going to be 3 more crew. So we cross those off, 3 more crew, and once the 7th pip is gone here, that'll be 1 less damage. Now I got 2, because we're firing on the bow, it's random which side gets hit. So I'm going to roll on a 1, 2, 3, and on a 4, 5, 6. So I roll a 1 and a 2, and they have lost 1, 2 of their port cannons, which may not be great. Well, that actually might work out really well for the French, because if this vessel turns to the left and comes across her bow or the stern of the Caroline, then the Leopard is only going to be able to fire 3 cannons. I guess we know what those damage control crews are going to be doing next. Let me just double check the damage. And for those of you yelling at your screen, I did count up. It's actually 6 crew altogether, so there's only going to be 4 repair parties available. We'll put these out of the way. And depending on what direction these come in, the French don't have any repairs to make. The British now get to fire, and again, they don't have any firing. But they do get to sail, which is good. Oh, see, they needed to get the sailing first and then the firing. We're going to go ahead and, why don't we go ahead and, like I said, they have to sail at full sail this turn. They're going to be able to move a total of, the Leopard can move 10 inches. Next turn, they're going to go to half sail. At half scale, that'll be 5. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to turn a little bit to the port. Oh, but it is 2/3, isn't it? So they're really only going to be able to move about 3 inches. So we'll go 2, and then we'll turn something like that, and we'll cut one more like that. So we're still in that range. We're going to be moving at half speed next turn. Almost dead in the water, but that's okay because the French now have to sail, and they're probably going to want to just get the heck out of Dodge. At half sail, they're only going to be able to move the 3.5 inches like that. And do they want to turn a little bit more? Maybe they come back that last inch and turn a little something like, maybe they turn 2 points, because they may want to just cut up this way and take one more shot before they race off. They're putting themselves in danger of getting boarded. If the two miniatures run into each other, that's where boarding actions come in. But I think that's all we can do for right now. And then, of course, the red ship now gets to repair. As I said, they've got 4 repairs that they can do, and we're going to put all 4 of those back onto the guns. We get 1 gun back in action, and of course, it's going to be the gun on, well, it's going to be one of those guns on the port side, which is good because we're getting a little bit closer. That means we can reshuffle our turn order. I've shuffled the little chits, but I'm going to kind of randomize them just a little bit more. I did, again, move both of the vessels back 2 inches. And I think we're good. Let me just swap these two. I don't know which ones are where, so that keeps it a little bit more random. The red ship gets to fire. Oh, that is not good for the British. They still don't have a shot. The blue ship now gets to fire, and take a look. They are within 6 inches now. So they're going to be able to fire, and this time their 4 guns are going to be hitting on, at up to 12 inches, they're hitting on 4s, 5s, and 6s. With 4 guns, man, I'm really tempted at this point to fire on the mast, because if these guys lose a mast, that's going to guarantee that the Indiaman gets away. We're hitting on 5s or 6s. I'm just going to go for the damage. Maybe we get the mast anyway. And it's good that we did, because that means we got 3 hits. Take a look. If we had fired on the masts, it would have been a miss across the board. The British now suffer 1, 2, 3 damage cards in that order, although they're not quite as high. So the 6 of diamonds will be a steerage gear. That is this thing right down here. And I'm not sure what losing this thing right down here. I'm not sure what losing one of them means. We'll take a look shortly. The 4 of hearts means that we have 1 more hull box hit. So we'll cross that off. The repair crew, the carpenter's crews, were doing good. And then the 4 of spades means 1 gun and 1 crew hit. So we cross off another point on the crew star. And this time, because we are fully on the starboard side, we're going to have to cross off a starboard gun. That might save the French vessel entirely. At least, but not on this turn, right? Because the French now get to sail out of here. They're going to go 3.5 inches. 1, 2, 3. That's 2. Let's turn a couple more points, and then we'll cut across something like that. We think we want just a couple of more shots. The British ship still has 4 crew stars left. Partials count. What do we want to repair? We're going to try to repair all the guns. Looking for 5s and 6s. We get a pair of 6s. The guns are back in action. We are going to be able to get back. Well, the British are going to be able to get back some of their own on the next turn. The French still haven't suffered any damage, and now the British get to sail. And at half sail, the Leopard is only going to be able to move 2 inches. So we're just going to bring them 2 inches, and then we'll turn. We're just going to, oh, you know what? They're only going to move 1.5 inches like that. But I am going to turn so that we are not quite, I think if we stay like that, we're going to be moving at half speed, and then we'll have to turn back into the wind. I think that's what it looks like, because this guy, this captain, the captain of the Leopard, he's no dummy. He's counting on the French not being able to get out of his fire arc. In fact, he may want to just come down a little bit closer, just in case. I didn't move the boats this time. I don't think I really need to, but I do need to get those cards kind of out of the way. So we did a little bit of an informal cut there, and this time the British now get to open fire. And I just showed you, they are in range. We're at 6. They're going to be hitting on 4s, and they have all 6 shots. I only have 4 dice handy, so let me just roll these 4. They're going to score on a total of 3 hits, and then we have 2 more shots, so 4 hits. And they finally get back 4 hits, so 5, king, 9, and ace. And that ace is going to be a problem for the French, because the 5 of hearts, so here we are. See, there's the Caroline, completely untouched, at least until she takes that 5 of hearts is the first one, and the 5 of hearts is going to be 1 hull box. Kapow. Then the King of Hearts is going to be 3 hull boxes. 1, 2, 3. Can't repair the hull, even if we got the resources available. The 9 of Spades is going to be 1 gun and 1 crew. That gun is going to be on the starboard side, so they're not going to be able to return fire. And that Ace of Hearts is going to be the Carpenter killed. So see this here? Try to get the... There we go. Carpenter killed. And that means bad news for the French. When your Carpenter is killed, your repair rolls, instead of being on a 5 or a 6, you're at -1 to repair. Oh, do you need to take 2 hits on that, or just the 1? Both of those have to be crossed off. Still making repairs on a 5 or 6, but these stars here, your command, whether it's your Marines, you're the gunnery captain, the sailing master, it doesn't matter. Once you take, they can't be repaired, obviously. So the Carpenter crew has been reduced by half. Once they're gone, then we're going to struggle to do any kind of damage control. Now the French get to try to repair. And as I said, they have 4 possibilities to repair, but they're not going to be able to fix the hull or the Carpenter. That means we're rolling 4 times to see if we can get this gun back in action. With a single 5, we will do just that. So they're able to get the gun back up on its chocks. Unless guns cannot be repaired at all. You know, as I said that, I guess we get it back on its chocks, I thought, that's ridiculous. All right, the British got away with one. They took an extra shot that they really shouldn't have had. I guess we could put back one of those damage cards. Which one would I put back on the Caroline, though? Because one of those hits, or maybe it was 3 hits to the first 3 rolls, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. The Caroline, when they get to return fire here, which is right now, they're only going to be able to fire 3. So they of all the damage that they took, none of it can be repaired. They do get to fire 3 more shots, though. And here we're going to score just a single hit on the Leopard, and that single hit will be a 4 of diamonds, which is the steerage gear for a second time. And I haven't even looked up what that means yet. If 1 or more points is crossed off, the ship cannot make any turns. Whoopsie, he did make a turn. Well, we won't make that mistake again. The Blue get to sail. They don't have any. They get to make some turns, and they are going to declare this is our last turn of sailing at this speed. Now, because the wind is, they're still going to be able to move 3.5 inches. Can they make turns yet? Yeah, they can make turns. So they are going to go ahead and turn like so, and then move to there, and that is where we're going to end the sailing for now. The red vessel gets to sail, and remember, they don't get to make any turns. and they are at half speed because they are sailing. They're like broad reaching or whatever it's called. It's called. They are at. They're basically sailing. Are they into the wind at this point? Yeah, they're sailing into the wind at this point. So they only get to move 1 inch, which might be good for them because the last thing that happens is they get to attempt repairs. They only have their 4 crew, but they're going to try to repair the steerage. Well, they could repair the hull too. Let's go with 2 points to steerage and 2 points to the hull. Oh, and I should probably declare this. Let's try that again. The white dice are going to be for steerage, the black dice for the hull. Repairing on 5s or 6s, and they got bupkis. Come on, carpenters. Let's get it going. All right. That's going to end the turn. And knocked a little bit off their line. One of the things you could do, I'm not going to do that right now, but you could declare that any direction change that they make now allows the Indiamen to get 1 kilometer closer. By the time these guys get their repairs done, get back in action, because they're going to have to repair their rudder if they want to do that. It may be that the Indiaman is that much closer to Mauritius. And if we can, that, like I said, always bear in mind, this is a campaign game. We're just trying to slow down this British vessel. And every time you do damage like that, you just have to factor in, well, what does that mean for the Indiamen? Does it buy them an extra 3 or 4 kilometers? Remember, they're 75 kilometers away from safety, give or take. So, a few more of those pieces of damage and the Indiaman gets away, which may change the calculus of the tabletop game. The captain of the Leopard may say, forget the Indiaman, I'm going after these guys. But it's going to be hard. They're both at, oh, shoots. Let me mix those up again. I should be going the right way. We've been going from right to left this whole time, so I'm going to continue doing that. So the first thing is the British now get another chance to repair, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go with, let's go with all 4. It's a good point. Let's go with all 4 for the steering. And we get a single repair. So we'll erase 1 of those off the steerage. See, so they just have 1 point of damage. They still can't turn. And that's it for that phase. And then the blue ship has to sail. And they are now at, because they're at half speed, at half sail, the Caroline would normally be sailing at 2.5, at half sail. They'd move. Ooh, I might have given them too much movement before. It's not 7, it's 5. So I have to take back a half an inch of movement. Now they're at 5, but they're at half speed because they are sailing into, they don't have the wind directly at their back. So they're only going to be able to move that tiny little bit. And they're done. Unless they want to try to escape. The British now get to go, and they are only able to move 1 inch. And I think they're going to try to get away at this point. So maybe we go full sail to sail off in this direction. Next turn. Now the blue ship gets to sail, and we have to check gets to fire, excuse me. The French are firing. There's our firing arc. They are absolutely going to get away with it. But they only have 3 guns. Are they within 6 inches? They're just outside. You measure main mast to main mast. So they're only hitting on 5s, and they get nothing. The British get to go, and are the French within their firing arc because of the slight difference? The French are not. Boy, they sure could have used that sailing point, couldn't they? And then the last thing for the turn is the French trying to repair. And the French have nothing that they can repair. So that will end the turn. Our turn markers are random. The French get to fire again. Man, these are really coming up. I moved them a little bit. Remember that the French were a little too far away. And I should probably check. We got to make sure that the French are outside the firing arc and outside 6 inches. So that's really what it should look like. They didn't move after the last turn, so it's still going to look like that. The French, I don't think they did. Anyway, vagaries of the wind, what can I tell you? The French are going to get to fire, and again, they're hitting on 5s and 6s. They're only going to get a single hit here at long range. The 7 of diamonds. Man, the Leopard is really just taking a beating on this one. The 7 of diamonds means 3 crew are hit. 1, 2, 3, leaving them with just 1 more pip on their second crew star. Fortunately, men are cheap. Then the blue ship gets to sail, and they only get to sail 1.25 inches, so we're going to go ahead and move like so, and we're going to turn 2 points away from the British. We've done enough damage. We've done everything we can. We're going to try to get away. And the French get to try to repair. Once again, they don't have anything capable of repairing, and now the British get to try to repair their steering. They get 441, nothing doing. Then they get to fire. They got nobody around, so all that's going to happen is we go to full sail, and at full sail, that half speed, we're going to go 2, and they're going to be at half speed for a while yet. Now, what does this mean? It means that after this limited engagement, the Caroline is happy to have gotten away. The Leopard is going to have to make some repairs. It's going to slow them down, and we'll have to step back and see what this means in terms of the campaign. I am inclined to say, and what I can do is use Heart of Oak to figure out how long it would take to repair their steerage. Essentially, they're going to be trading a few shots, but after 2 more turns of just moving in 1 inch, and these guys sailing away, the Caroline sailing away, they're going to be well beyond, they're going to be outside of the extreme range. Now, they could circle back around if they wanted to, and they may do that. We may decide that after a day, we're ready for round 2. So what I'm going to do is leave these ship records as you see them. And we're going to turn our attention back to the campaign map. And we'll take a look at what the situation looks like. We'll figure out how much further the Indiaman is going to be able to get away, and whether it's worth it for the Leopard to pursue the Indiaman, or if he should set out in hot pursuit of the Caroline. That will be and I'm guessing, we probably played about 15, 20 turns. This was a hot action. Probably only took about a half an hour during the course of the day. What does that mean to the campaign? I'm really not sure. But it's getting late in my day, so I'm going to go make myself a nice salad. Maybe throw a little bit of roast chicken on there. Doesn't that sound good? A little slice of life for you from the House of Wargaming. Tune in next week as we turn our attention back to the campaign. This is going to take a really long time. We're going to get so many episodes out of this. It's going to be great. Very intellectual exercise. A lot of thinking going on. A lot of math. A lot of paper and pencil shoving things around. But we're generating a much more interesting tabletop battle. If this was a tabletop battle, these guys would have kept circling and duking it out, and we could have played for 4 hours. As it is, this is good for today. We'll see what these 2 captains want to do tomorrow, next week. Till then, I'm praying for you.